kicking, never quitting. Focus sharp like a blade that's hitting. From white belt dreams to the master flow, Paul Coffey's got the mic, now the stories grow. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Old school, new school, all styles blend. From the mat to the mic, where the arts ascend. Philosophy deep, but the vibe stays tight. Martial minds meeting in the podcast light. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins. Technique entails discipline and fire. Each guest brings truth to inspire. Keep kicking, step into your power. Keep kicking, moment to the hour. Every strike, every fall, every rise. It's a journey through a warrior's eyes. Keep kicking. Keep kicking. Paul Coffey leads and the journey begins.
I don't believe in self-defense at all. I believe in self-awareness and self-offense. If you are not able to avoid situations and there's a sense that things are going to get physical, there might only be one move in this entire interaction, and you had better make sure it's your move. No one gets to go first, because you don't know if they have a hand in their pocket. You don't know what they're working on. You don't know any of that. So I tell everybody that you might not like the way that sounds, but at the end of the day, to be sure that I get to go home to my family, I'm going first.
Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to Keep Kicking, the martial arts podcast where I have martial arts conversations with my martial arts friends. Today, I sit down with John. John, would you like to introduce yourself for the people?
Yeah, hey, my name is John Clarke, owner and operator of Broadway Jiu Jitsu in Boston, Massachusetts. I've been on the mat for at least 30 years now. Seems like an eternity, and happy to be here and talk with you, Paul.
Happy to have you. John, tell us how you got started in martial arts.
Man, I got started when I was a little kid watching, honestly, it was The Karate Kid and Vision Quest. And then
Awesome.
And then when I was in probably about 7th grade, we picked sports. I was a big BWE fan as a little kid, and then at Cub Scouts, we had gone to a college wrestling match, and I had never even heard what wrestling was, like what college wrestling was. And I was incredibly disappointed when we got there, because everybody was basically wearing singlets instead of, like, yellow tights and long hair and everything else like that. Following year, I was playing basketball, and there weren't enough guys on the wrestling team, so I switched over to wrestling, and my dad bought me the shoes. It was incredibly hard. I tried to quit, and he said, "You don't have to do it next year, but you're going to finish this season. I already bought these shoes," and boom, here we are. That was 1980.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
How did you get from wrestling to jiu-jitsu? That's an easy transition, but
it's an easy transition. But I, after high school, I wrestled very, very briefly, like 6 weeks in college. And through a slew of injuries and really just practice interfering with my social agenda, so to speak, things didn't quite work out for me to pursue the social agenda and the athletic agenda to the degree that I wanted to do both. So back then, when I was a young kid, it was an easy choice. And so wrestling took a back seat. Pursuing the social agenda also led me to have to switch schools a few times. And so I moved around a little bit and did some judo in between. And eventually I linked up with my high school wrestling coach, who was only a handful of years older than I was. He owned a restaurant. We bought some mats. We had a 12 tape set of the Baz Rutten Valley Tudo tapes. And we just sat in the basement of his restaurant, heel hooking each other and shooting double legs. And
so you transitioned from wrestling to jujitsu with a real life fight club.
Yes.
Love
And then and then there wasn't even a jujitsu school in my state at that point. I think now we're around probably like 99. And then one opened up. And so we went. And back then it was just, there's a jujitsu class being offered at this JKD Academy. And so like you were doing sticks and weapons and everything else also, but you got to do the jujitsu class. And so eventually right at that time is when things started to get really popular. So the jujitsu classes were more popular than some of the other JKD oriented classes. And they basically just took over the school and that was it. And that was my basic transition.
It sounds awesome. Tell me what has kept you going in martial arts these years.
I would say like the first thing that has kept me going is that I think staying current and like staying on top of topics and continuing to train and continuing to compete once in a while, those kind of like create a good feedback loop, right? I think that people who get stale, it's because you get stale because as an older guy, you start to fall behind just a little bit on the current trends. And then you become one of these guys. Man, leg locks suck. They don't work. I'm not going to do it. Well, the reality is you just suck at them. Like they work. You just don't want to now go back and have to like start as a beginner. And it's a little bit of a blow to your ego that some, blue belt is heel hooking you. Well, you kind of got to look that in the face and say, I want to stay current. I want to do all these things. So I get to start again. And then you start to realize that you started having fun doing this when you were a student and you kind of get to be a student again. And that makes it a lot more fun. So, just staying active and staying on the mat.
Man, that student mentality is it's what drives most of us. It's important. It has to be. I tell everybody, everybody's first day. My first day just happens to be 32 years ago, but it's still my first day today.
I try to tell my guys it's a little bit like some people are married and some people are dating. And I try to date jujitsu. I want to be having a torrid love affair with jujitsu. I don't want to be in a crusty old marriage where I don't love seeing jujitsu on a daily basis.
That's good. And congratulations. That's the name of the episode, Torrid Love Affair with Jiu-Jitsu. I love it.
Nice. Love it.
So tell me, what do you think the average student neglects in their practice?
I think rather than it being one thing, I think there's an outlook. And I think that you have to be a willing participant in the learning process. And by that, what I mean is you got to come in the gym with something that you want to do, something to achieve in your training session, and like the ability to listen to your coach and either implement what they've taught you in class that day, implement the thing you saw on Instagram the morning of. It doesn't matter, but you got to be an active participant in the learning process. You can show up every day for 5 years, and through osmosis, you're going to get a little bit better. But if you're an active participant and you work deliberately and you have things you're trying to accomplish and you understand how to accomplish them on a daily basis, I think that makes things more fun and it increases the learning curve. And I think a big part of that is also like competition, which I know that that's a sensitive subject for some people, but I do think people are missing that from both an improvement standpoint and a community standpoint. I think there's nothing better than getting on a road with your buddies, making weight, going to a new town or a new city or a new state and getting on weight together, competing together, going out to dinner together, having a couple beers, and then going home. So I think those are the things that people kind of whiff on is the intentionality and the competition.
Well, no, also, first of all, one of the reasons that I'm doing this podcast is to build a community where I found community when I needed it, rebuild it. If you look online, I don't know what your online presence is like, but mine is full of a bunch of people that are commenting that won't work, this won't work, naysaying. And I just wanted, we have more things in common than we do div. But I want to piggyback on what you said, because it's not just a, hey, me and my buddies are going on the road and going to this tournament. it's also, we're going to this tournament with a whole bunch of other people that love the thing that we love. Meet those people, talk to those people. Now you have more people you can work out with, even if it's just sometimes.
Right. My gym has been open 15 years, and I think maybe
That's a
about 10
long
years.
time
It's
for
a long time.
a BJJ gym. That is,
Yes.
it's
We're
incredible. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations for weathering the COVID storm.
That was a
Um,
nightmare.
yeah,
But
go ahead.
we back then, I think like 10 years ago, we had maybe like 125 students, and
Hmm.
we brought 30 guys from Boston to
Hmm.
Worlds in California. 30 guys. It was awesome. Now we have way, way, way more students than that, and we had 3 guys go a mile down the street for the IBJJF Boston Open this summer. So I think that there's been a shift in, if we're talking about community, I think there's been a shift in, this has evolved from an art that we consumed to or an art that we pursued rather, and now it's become a service that they consume.
Mm.
And it's a little bit more, it's a different thing now, I think, for a lot of gyms. You still get your core guys who are going to bond together, but there are a
Hmm.
lot of like people that come into your gym. Here's my hour. I want to break a sweat. I want to go home. I want to tell my friends I do jujitsu. And that's where the level of their interest ends. And it's totally
Hmm.
fine. But
Hmm.
it's just different than when I started.
Sure. But that's also, that is the, in my subjective opinion, that is the evolution of all martial arts. Do you know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? Like, there
Yeah,
are
totally.
still, there are martial artists that are lifelong practitioners and live it, eat it, breathe it. And then there are people that are martial arts practitioners that just like the idea of going to one gym, doing the thing, learning the moves, bettering themselves on a health level or a physicality level, and that's okay. That just shows that jujitsu as an art, jujitsu as a martial art, Brazilian jiu-jitsu specifically, is kind of a baby art. It's not been around as long as karate or kung fu. And so, like, it's in its infancy stages, and that just shows that it's growing up. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just to say that it's a different, and the world is different, right? But it's a different
Sure.
environment than when
Sure.
I started doing this. Like there's a
For
natural
sure.
transition from wrestling, and we started doing jujitsu not because jujitsu was its own thing. We did it because it was one piece of what back then was Vale Tudo.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's
Mm-hmm.
become its own thing now, like the people who pursue it are a little, it's just different. Not right or wrong. I don't mean to say one's better or worse, but it's
No,
different.
no, no, for sure. Why do you teach?
Man, I love to teach. I love
Mm-hmm.
to be on the mat. I love to train every night when I can, when my body lets me. And I love to
That's
sit
right.
around after class and troubleshoot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like that's the thing I want to do. It's weird. I go to these, like, you'll go to these martial arts business seminars and they'll say, "What's your
Mm-hmm.
goal being here this weekend?" And almost everyone says, like, "I want to get off the mat. I want to work on my business, not in my business." Like, I don't. I want to be on the mat all the time. Like, I want to be there hands on. Teaching forces me to pay, it keeps me honest and it keeps my jujitsu honest. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't go in there and teach all the things that I learned in 2001 because some of them are applicable, some of them aren't applicable. But I want to be able to have a conversation about what happened over the weekend in this high level no gi event. And to do that, I have to stay current. And if I'm going to stay current, I need to teach all that stuff. And I just want my people to be as informed as possible. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, I love to teach. It keeps my jujitsu honest, forces me to stay current. And honestly, like it's fun to watch the kids who stick around get good. That's fun.
No, for sure. Absolutely. Tell me, let's talk more about competition. How did competition help your technique?
Well, I feel like it's competition when you compete, first of all, in one afternoon, I feel like the amount of information you can glean from a competition and kind
Uh-huh.
of improve upon, it's worth 6 months of training.
Mm-hmm.
I think more so than any like technical aspect of, well, I'm going to grab this grip here or I'm going to do this here. I think what competition tells you is which techniques you trust the most. Because the
Mm.
ones that you start to use, especially initially, those are clearly the things you trust the most. And if we're in the gym and we're just training, like, I don't have that same sense of urgency or competitive fire. And so
Mhm.
maybe I'm trying other moves. Nothing wrong with it. But when you truly have to select the techniques that you think are going to give you the greatest amount of success, that's how you begin to build a game. And now you go
Mhm.
back and you revisit those things. And then now people will start to like, the guys in your gym, maybe they'll start to pass your knee shield half guard or whatever. And then you refine and then you switch directions totally. So I think competition just keeps you honest and it forces you to acknowledge the things that you trust the most. And it allows you to build a game at that point in your jujitsu career. And I'm sure it will change
Mhm.
years down the road.
Sure, absolutely. I like the wording that you picked there of the things that we trust. You know, most other instructors say the things that you're best at, but I think there's a difference.
Yeah,
You know?
there definitely could be a difference there, especially in a grappling art, like
Mhm.
there might be a submission that I'm really, really good at, but maybe I'm the best at a Kimura from somewhere. However, it's not accessible from everywhere. So there's a trade off. So I
Mhm.
trust this control position and sort of creeping around to, I don't know, some B tier submission in my game because it allows me
Mhm.
to maintain the control because this is what I trust the most. I trust that I'm going to be able to stay on top. I trust that I'm not going to lose this position. If I magically fall into this Kimura, great, I'll hit it. But the positions that I trust the most are where I'm going right away. And I also feel like that's how the fight is not like, let's say I'm on top and I'm gonna work for an over underpass. My fight is not
Mhm.
the over underpass. My fight is getting there. And once I'm there,
Yes.
I will pass. I'm going to get my pass is how I feel. It's not true all the
Mhm.
time, but that's how I feel.
Right. Right.
And so the fight is to get to your kill spot. It's not once you're in your kill spot. And that's what I
Mhm.
trust, getting into that spot.
Mhm. Excellent wording. I couldn't have said it better. I appreciate that wording. Tell me how martial arts has helped you outside of the dojo. How's it helped you with everyday life or
I mean, I would say I'm not big on, for me, there has not been some sort of like spiritual impact or anything like that. I think anything we endeavor to do that involves activity and community is beneficial.
Mhm. Mhm.
In our community, you see a lot of things like, oh, jujitsu saved my life or martial arts saved my life. But people in playing basketball might be like, basketball saved my life
Sure.
or archery saved my life.
Mhm.
Anytime you have an activity to pursue and a community that supports you, I think it's beneficial.
Mhm.
For me, because I've been doing this so long, every good thing I have in my life is like within 3 decisions traced directly back to martial arts.
Right.
So the short answer is it's helped me, to stay in shape-ish and to kind of like, you meet a lot of different people. But the long answer is every good thing I have in my life has come from martial arts, you know, directly or indirectly.
Right. That's a great answer. And I'm not looking for ask these questions. Like some of us are spiritual with our martial
Right.
practice. Some of us are very practical down to earth with the application. But, it may give you the ability to work the discipline of discipline. It may give us the ability to be calm and level headed in dire situations. Like anything.
Yeah. I
Appreciate
think I think for me, a lot of most of those benefits that I have at the point I'm at in life, I can attribute more to age than anything else. So, um, yeah.
I appreciate that too.
Yeah. That
Appreciate that.
slowed me down more than anything else.
Well, I will also say though, it looks like you've aged gracefully. I don't know how old you are, but we attribute martial arts as the fountain of youth in some regard, you know. So you keep moving, and it does help us age.
Definitely. Yeah. That's what I try to do. Just keep on going.
Okay. So now is the toughest question that I ask most every martial artist. And this starts with an omission. The omission is as a martial artist, I recognize that I'm kind of equal parts sadistic and masochistic, and not everybody is like that. And I'm particularly interested in your response to this because of your dedicated practice to jujitsu. I've talked to some other jujitsu practitioners. Not all of them are dedicated primarily, I won't say solely, but primarily to jujitsu. You know, some of them are like jujitsu, but also Wing Chun or Kempo or whatever. And the question is, how do you teach nonviolent people to speak the language of violence when they need to? And it's a tough answer. And I know that it's really broad and that there's a plethora of answers to it, but as best you can.
So when we talk about violence, I think, especially like when we talk about it in my gym, we talk about the two types of violence. And the two major types of violence are social violence and antisocial violence. And social violence being, guys who are jockeying for some sort of a hierarchy
Mhm.
in the group of people they're surrounded by or in society. Generally, it's preceded by a lot of talking. So there's an exchange of words. And I tell everybody that social violence, generally, you can walk away from or talk your way out of. So there's not really a need to engage there. The minute it becomes physical, you probably have done something or overlooked some way to extract yourself from that situation.
Mhm.
Antisocial violence is when someone is trying to commit harm to you, take something from you, your wallet, your car, or whatever. It has nothing to do with the social hierarchy. And I tell people that unfortunately, I don't believe in self defense at all. I believe in
Absolutely.
self awareness and self offense. And
Mm.
so
Mm.
if you are not able to avoid situations and there's a sense that things are going to get physical and you cannot avoid it, there might only be one move in this entire interaction, and you had better make sure it's your move.
Mhm.
No
Mhm.
one, no one gets to go first because you don't know if they have a hand in their pocket. You don't know what they're working on. You don't know any of that. So I tell everybody that you might not like the way that that sounds, but at the end of the day, to be sure that I get to go home to my family, I'm going
Mhm.
first, and I'll
Mhm.
deal with what happens after that. I think that that's a tough thing for people to digest sometimes,
For
in
sure.
in dealing with violence. And I also think, and maybe some people are not going to like this, modern jujitsu should not be your primary form of self defense.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I think too many people go to a jujitsu class and then they become emboldened in the real
Mhm.
world and they forget that you just came from a place where the violence is gamified and now you're in
Mhm.
a place where the violence is not gamified and you don't know what rules that other person is playing by. And so an extreme example would be like there's an interaction on the street, like what are you going to do, sit to guard? Obviously you're not, but that's an example of trying to use a gamified violence technique in a venue where there are no rules.
Mhm.
And so I think, putting things like that and putting it into context with people, it kind of nails that. It drives those points home. And I hope it helps people to either understand they need to learn how to avoid or learn how to act. And this all goes
Mhm.
back to competition because competition tells you, are you the guy who's going to give up or are you the guy who's going to push back when it's time to push back? You want to stand your ground without antagonizing. There's a whole ecosystem of things that I
For
try to teach
sure.
those guys. Yeah.
For sure. I appreciate the honesty and I appreciate that answer like greatly. This is part of a larger conversation, right? Where so I've been doing martial arts for 32 years. I've been teaching for 28. Shaolin Kempo is my base. I've done a plethora of other things since my beginning 32 years ago. And I currently am in a stage where I teach a lot of disenfranchised individuals. I teach some people out of rehab facilities. I teach some people out of homeless shelters. I teach some communities that are otherwise disengaged. Okay. And the common thread for all of them is that they were in some way, shape, or form previously victimized. And by being previously victimized, they kind of walk around with that victim mentality and they freeze for lack of a better word, for lack of like, not making it fluffy, all butterflies and rainbows. They freeze, and that's more dangerous in a fight. And I'm bringing all that up only to say that, like, the thing that jujitsu has to offer, in my perspective and opinion, is the contact, because you're getting used to, accustomed to, not desensitized to, but accustomed to touching another person, having them touch you, having them manipulate your body and your balance, you manipulating their body and their balance. And I do think that that is an important aspect for the conversation as a whole. I, like you, agree that it probably is not like the end all be all, but there are situations where I have seen people and specifically said to them, listen, jujitsu is not going to be a self-defense art for you, but 6 months of jujitsu will help you get rid of that victim mentality. Do you agree with that as a statement, as a
I
jujitsu
do. And I agree also. I think that is a good way to look at it. I also look at it like this. Jiu-jitsu is a tool like any other tool. And
Absolutely.
if I hand you a tool, say it's a knife, and I say, okay, now go defend yourself, you might look at your hand, you might look at an opponent, and you might shit your pants, drop the knife and run, which is also totally fine, right? But if I
Right.
give you 6 months of training with this knife, now you understand how to use the tool and you become a little bit more confident in that. And I
Mhm,
think jujitsu is the same way. And the other things that you're talking about with comfortable with space, understanding how to move people. Like
mhm,
now you understand that jujitsu is a tool. You understand a little bit how to use it, and therefore you're more comfortable. And
mhm.
sidebar, that's why I tell everybody the gi is actually more realistic than no gi for self-defense.
Say more.
So most people are not getting in a fight on the beach in their shorts. Most people
Mhm,
live in a climate where, at least for a portion of the year, you'll be wearing a shirt and or pants and maybe a sweater and a coat. And the gi is not for me to be able to grab you. You learn what it feels like when someone else grabs you and moves you around when you wear a
mm,
gi. And that is, I think, invaluable in a self-defense situation, not the other way around.
mhm. No, I do agree with that 100%. That's a valid point. Do you teach any Okay, let's backtrack a little bit. I don't use the term self-defense usually. I usually say
Yep.
self-preservation, because at the end of the day, that, like, I don't a real street fight is ugly. It's brutal. It's nasty. There's never any winners. There's only like the person that, survived versus the person that didn't survive. And survive is an extreme term. Not all fights end in death, but the guy that got knocked out and is in a puddle on the side of the road, he did not survive that altercation,
That's correct.
you know?
Yeah.
And so I tell everybody that it's about self-preservation, because if you've made it to the point to where you're in a fight, or maybe it's not a made it to, maybe, there are people that are going to come up and try and grab you so they can get your car or your wallet or whatever. There are people that are going to attack you for the way that you look. I don't have that's a luxury that I have in this life. I am a white male and I am 6'5". Not many people are coming up to me and attacking me for the way that I look.
Right.
So, but people still might, in desperation, need the money that's in my wallet or need my car. And so I still am at risk of those type of attacks. And so I'm telling people that awareness in any capacity is the best thing that they can learn from any martial arts. Do you teach any of, some people call them the soft skills? I don't like that term, the soft skills. And I do want to at some point in time circle back to your self
Yeah.
offense, because I love that terminology and I want us to expand on that. But first, do you teach any of the, I don't call them soft skills. I call them intervention skills, because I think that as martial artists, when we fight, we have soft skills. I have the ability to control somebody without really hurting them. And then I have hard skills where I can knock somebody out or I can hurt somebody. So there's a distinction already that exists in the physical skills. So for me to say soft skills seems somehow disingenuous. Do you do any intervention?
So first of all, I'm with you on the self-defense stuff. I just feel like anybody who's selling self-defense is like a grifter, and they're trying to capitalize on, a
Grifter's a
Saturday
great word.
afternoon, seminar. And really all you're
Hmm.
doing is making people confident enough to actually go get themselves really hurt.
Hmm.
And if you're looking for something like I tell everybody, a 6-week course isn't going to help you. Just immerse yourself in a martial art, any martial art, and you're going to be
Mhm.
doing way better than most of the people will. So
Absolutely.
we hate framing things as self-defense. What I
Mhm.
teach, and we kind of stopped a little bit before COVID, and we do have a lot more requests for it, is because we're primarily a grappling gym. I
Mhm.
teach jujitsu for the streets. And
Say
that's what
more.
I call it. Yeah, that's what I call it. I give everyone a legal disclaimer and I say, this
Mhm.
is not, we talk about which techniques you should absolutely never use from your jujitsu training that will get you hurt. We talk about the importance of being on top and not entangled with a person so
Mhm.
that you can posture up and run so that
Mhm.
you're not getting suckered from behind.
Mhm.
We do a little bit of the soft skill stuff where we talk about you walk into Starbucks, you may not know it, but there's a baseline level of expectation that you have for the
Mhm.
environment there.
Mhm.
And when sometimes something is off and it doesn't meet your baseline level of expectation, don't fight your intuition. And sometimes we do because we're trained to be politically correct. First thing
Mhm.
I do is I look for the out. Where's the exit? There it is. Okay. Am I still feeling uncomfortable? I'll get a coffee somewhere else. And maybe I'm
Mhm.
overreacting. And maybe my girlfriend's going to make fun of me after. But
Mhm.
maybe we also just avoided some situation that would have been
Mhm.
way, way worse. So I think understanding those things and understanding that human beings are the only creatures in the animal kingdom that regularly ignore their intuition. If a twig, right? If it if a twig snaps in the forest, the deer is not standing around looking for who snapped the twig. They're fucking gone, right? But
Right.
us, we fight our intuition to feel good about ourselves.
Mm.
And, a lot of times you can get yourself into trouble like that. So, jujitsu for the streets is mostly about how can you use some of the most basic techniques in jujitsu to preserve yourself on the street. Common thing is anyone puts their hand on you, arm drag, shove them, and walk away. Make yourself a
Mhm.
hard target. People who want to do you harm generally won't chase you. So make enough distance that you're now a hard target instead of an easy target. Things like always positioning yourself so that you can see the most of the people who are around you.
Mhm.
You know, if someone is giving you a hard time and it seems like maybe they've got some friends with them, well, how do we move ourselves around so that you slowly start to line those people up in your field of vision? Not because you're going
Mhm.
to Mr. Miyagi and knock everybody out, but maybe now you're not going to be pulling a knife out of your side. So we
Mhm.
do things like that to try and help people. We talk about the not it's kind of the opposite of what you learn in jujitsu. I actually don't want to stick myself to you. I want to put
Mm.
myself in a situation where I can control you and actually get away if I need to. And we talk a lot about technique selection. I tell people that I think judo is probably great for the streets. When someone moves towards you, most people are untrained. Dump them with a foot sweep, put them on their can, and you move away. Oh, and again, people are generally not going to chase you. We talk about parts of the body that bruise easily and parts of the body that don't bruise easily. How much trouble
Mhm.
you can get in when you leave a cut versus how much trouble you get in when you leave a black and blue on somebody. So we talk about those types of things.
And also, like, how easy the ego bruises. That's important as well.
Yeah, and also how like at the end of the day, none of this will matter. None of this will matter if you don't preserve yourself in that situation.
Mhm. Absolutely. What are a couple techniques that you advise against using in the streets, just out of curiosity?
I think any of the techniques, for example, that if I don't want to strike you, that's what I don't want to do. That's my last resort. I don't want to hit
Mhm.
you because I don't want to cause irreparable damage. I don't want you to fall
Mhm.
down and hit your head. I would love to put
Mhm.
you on the ground and keep me on my feet. So I eliminate things like that would involve me taking you down and going with you.
Mhm.
Body locks are great, but sometimes it keeps you with someone. And now, anytime I have my arms around you and I have inside control, I can't see your hands. So I
Right.
don't know what your hands are doing if you have a weapon that you're going to stick in my side. So I would
Mhm.
much rather work something like a snatch double, forehead in your chest, boom, yank your
Mhm.
legs out, put you on your
Mhm.
butt. I can see your hands. I want your hands in front of me at all
Mhm.
times, things like that. And if you can't exit the situation, when you do put someone on their butt, when they start to build their base and get back up, always making the 45-degree angle on their back hip, hand on their head. Keep control of them, steer them where you want them to go, but don't stick
Mhm.
yourself to them. Don't ride. steer them. I always want to have
Mhm.
an out. And the more I stick myself to someone, the more the chances that they'll be able to counter if they know anything, or if they're bigger and stronger, or if they have a weapon. I want enough control without being stuck to the opponent that I can extract myself from the situation.
Love that answer. Appreciate that answer greatly. For real. Like you're doing the good work there. So anybody that's watching this that is not a martial arts practitioner, what advice would you give them? They're thinking about joining, they haven't done it, they haven't picked a gym. What advice?
I would say be honest with yourself about what your goals
Gosh.
are. And
I'm at
and then
40, 40, 40, between 40 and 45. No one said that. Congratulations. Good job.
yes,
Go ahead.
be
Go
honest
ahead.
about your expectations, and for the love of God, stay off Reddit. And do not allow Reddit to set your expectations for you, because you're going to
And
be
Facebook.
immensely, yeah, you're going to be really, really unhappy about
Mhm.
what you're getting into. And the other,
That's a good philosophy for life
yeah,
in general.
definitely. And the other huge thing also is like, it's okay if you don't want to do martial arts. There's an idea with some of the people that come in the
Mm,
gym that they should feel like they want to fight because they're a guy, and it's somehow some sort of like
sure.
force multiplier to their masculinity and like their image, their
Mm,
self-image. But at the end of the day, like, you don't have to want to do this. It's not a big deal. And those become the worst students, because they think they should want to do it. They start to do it and they don't do it, and they don't know how to admit to themselves that it's not for them. Jiu-jitsu is, in
absolutely.
fact, not for everyone.
Absolutely. You know, a good friend of mine says martial arts is not for everybody, but there is a martial arts for every individual.
Yeah, I like that.
And like, you can't sum it up any better than that, for real. Tell me, if you could give every martial arts practitioner in the world one thing, it could be a technique, a philosophy, a thought, what would you give them?
If I could give every martial artist one thing, that's tough. Like, my first answer is probably too big, and I'd say like it's just it's just fight IQ. And I just don't
Mm,
think people have it. I would say that would be my first thing, would be fight IQ. And if I had to like really drill it down, I would say one of the two things my instructor told me when I first started, and I didn't believe him, was
mhm,
it's better to have strong grips than strong arms. And if I add 25 pounds to my bench press, it doesn't help in a fight. But if I get
mhm,
25% more flexible, it will help in a fight. So those are two things I think people should get used to, like,
mhm.
internalizing. I certainly didn't believe it.
Right. Well, the grip strength, especially, is something you don't get until you need it, and it's not there.
Right. Right. Definitely. And the grip strength you use in training is not the same as the grip strength you use in a real world situation or in a competition.
I think just let the air settle on that one. People need to hear that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me what's next for you. Are you going to still compete? You're obviously going to keep teaching. You've got your school. I hope it thrives for decades until you're ready to retire, and then you go to the mountains and do Tai Chi.
That's an awesome plan.
Yeah, but what is next for you? Are you going to compete still, or are you
Yeah, I
going
think like for me, like I'm potentially gonna head out to Euros in January if I can keep my body
cool?
intact and do that. Like, as an older guy, you kind of have to hit the big
That's
tournaments to make sure you get the matches.
the whole reason that I ask. The
Yeah.
whole reason
Yep.
that I ask.
So yeah, there's that. And like, for now, I'm happy to continue teaching. I
Mhm,
don't ever see a day where I won't want to do that. So figuring out what's
mhm,
next is tough. I have some
mhm.
students who have open gyms, and like, it's fun. Now I get to now pass on the experience I have in running a gym, in addition to like the experience I had in training and competing, to
That's
those
cool.
guys. So that's fun. And also just like concentrating more on, I love thinking about the curriculum and how can I disseminate this information to a room full of differently skilled, differently motivated, and differently intelligent people all at once.
Mhm,
And so
mhm.
like, I find that that is a challenge, and it's constantly changing. So the next thing, I guess I just don't know. I'm just happy right now doing what I'm doing.
I love that. Say more about the curriculum. Say more about breaking it down.
So if you pay attention to what goes on in the community, there are these two camps, this like whole eco camp where it's like task-based games. And
Yes.
then there are people who are like old school, drill it a million times.
Hmm.
And it's like politics. It's like people want to believe that one is absolutely right and the other is therefore absolutely wrong. Where for us, like tonight, I'm going to teach some stuff from half guard. And the lesson will start with eco games. And then I whittle it down to exactly what I would do in that situation. So throughout the
Mm.
class, you'll have a chance to explore the position yourself. And for the people who are having a hard time, now I show them, well, here's exactly what I would do. But you're familiar with the situation, you're familiar with the position. And I think that's valuable to do. And also just figuring out which are the most valuable positions to be in and how do we spend more time in those spots and how do we satisfy people's need to be like imitate their favorite grappler but in an environment where most people are hobbyists. That becomes, that becomes a challenge because this is most things like this are an aspirational game, and you may come in and you want to like do something like Gordon Ryan, but you need someone who's going to give you the right look so you can be Gordon Ryan, you know? So balancing that and I think is important. And I've switched my focus from when used to think that it is my job to get you as good at this as I possibly can. And
Hmm.
now I've
Hmm.
changed it to it's my job to create an opportunity for you to get as good at this as you possibly can. And should you
Love it.
choose to pursue it, I'm here to help.
Hmm.
But your personal development is no longer my sole priority. I want
Hmm.
to give you this opportunity and you do jujitsu the way that you want to do it. And here's one
Hmm.
way, and I'm here to help. So, thinking about the curriculum, techniques, how to teach it, and then expectations of the students is hard. I used to think, I used to be a nut about the details and be like, no, 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 you got to turn your hand this way, like 25 degrees. And at the end of the day, it's just too much for a lot of people. And some people
Hmm.
actually just don't care. They're just going to do it their way anyway. So I kind of, I've pulled back on that. And newer students generally need a technique
Hmm.
in which to wrap the concept I'm trying to convey. And as they get
Hmm.
better at jujitsu, they then start to understand the concept and then they can apply the concept to any of the other techniques. So it's kind of like
Hmm.
a trickier thing at first, I think. At the end of the day, you want people to understand the concepts so that their jujitsu becomes impervious to novelty. But you first have to do that through showing them techniques.
Impervious to knowledge is, or impervious to novelty is good. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I don't want you to be the student who the move of the week is on Instagram and you
Mm.
can it's kind of like if you take a foreign language class, like I can conjugate this verb in
Mhm.
class, but I can't go to Paris and ask anybody where the boulangerie is because I actually
Mhm.
don't understand it at that depth.
Mhm.
So just trying to get like another level of understanding of the moves. There's a difference between knowing jujitsu and understanding jujitsu.
Right. So that's really, really interesting to me. So this podcast in part is selfishness because we as martial artists, as we're working through things and whatever, we always, if you are a martial artist that is keeping yourself young, fresh, and moving, you are always reevaluating things. You are always working on something else. And currently I am working on a concept that I have entitled Free to Flow. And it started with removing the word relax from my teaching because you have that student that's like, I can't relax because then I'll fall over, like,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so like there is some natural tension that exists if we're sitting up, if we're in guard, if we're standing up, whatever. So instead, what we want is, the end goal of an engagement between the two of us is that I'm able to walk away. I'm able to still move. So still free
Hmm.
to flow, right? And what you have just added to that in a way, I can't sort out how I would do this with new students just yet. And so I'm going to pose this question and see what you're doing. Uh, with my advanced students, I almost like the idea of moving sparring to first. because that's what you've done. You've got free flow within these constraints. That's first. Let's work the fight first and then slowly boil the fight down to the technique. Don't know. That works in jiu-jitsu for almost all ranks. I don't know if that works on a standing or on a self-preservation level for all ranks. But initially, my thought is that it definitely works for my advanced students. And what I do selfishly, once again, is if you're my advanced students, I need you to pause this podcast and not watch the rest of it. If you're an advanced student, I selfishly will throw you to the wolves or throw you into the fire so that I can see what works. You know, I've cultivated you long enough. So now you're my pressure testers and I can throw things at you and see what you do with them, because then I know what the skill does with them.
Right.
So like for the advanced students, it's almost like we spar first and then I start doing the flow drills and the techniques that I want you to learn. Do you do that same concept with your like white belts, your fresh students?
We sometimes do, but I have a question for you. Can I
Okay.
pause for 1 minute?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, cool. I got to hit the head real quick.
That's fun. Got good view to leave me with.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry about that. That
All
midday
good.
energy drink will get you.
Yeah, no, all good.
So one of the things
So-
that we do is that idea that you spoke about, that's something that we used to do in boxing gyms when I was a kid. You'd go in and you'd do your warm up and you'd work on the combinations that you knew, and then you'd spar. And then they would say, go fix what didn't work. So then you would go and you'd think about the combos you tried to land and why didn't they land. Now, I mean, boxing is a different sport. So now you're
Sure.
on a bag and you can say, all right, well, I didn't step my right foot over here. I didn't make my angle enough. And now, while it's fresh in your mind, you understand why it didn't work. So we try to do that in a different way. We do the techniques, and then we're really, really encouraging about the students asking us questions right away after class. Like, don't, after the sparring, like, if you have a question, ask it now and ask it in front of other people because they may benefit from it. Don't go home and try and think, oh, I'll remember it on Tuesday, because A, you're not going to remember it. And B, we won't be able to remember it exactly and recreate it. So I think it's a valuable thing to try and fix what went wrong quickly after. So I like that approach. We also try to create a situation where, when you're talking about relaxing and tension, we don't ever want to create a drill where only one guy is working. We always try to give an objective to both sides. So even if the objective is as simple as, like, maybe the bottom guy's inverting and it's something maybe a little more advanced, and there's a day 2 guy that he's inverting on for some weird reason, we'll give him an objective of like maintaining a specific stance in his toes and knees and whatever. But we want to make sure that people are constantly, both guys have something to work on. So that's one of the strategies that we try to deploy on the guys. But fixing what didn't work is good.
Do you find that newer students have problem picking that up, or do you think that the culture bakes it into where they get it quicker? Because what you're doing is an advanced thing. What you're doing is something that some people who have done martial arts 5, 10 years might not be able to do in a class. You know what I'm saying? And I admire that, and I do see the value add to it. What does it do for the newbies?
I think you give them something to focus on other than, oh my God, I have no idea what the fuck is going on here and I suck. So you're giving them at least something to think about other than, am I screwing this guy's time up here? Like, is everyone looking at me? Give them an objective, and I think that will help, like, stop that from creeping into their minds. And also, they may not understand it today, but in 5 years, you may repeat the same sentence to them, and then some sort of a light bulb will go off and they'll remember it. So the new students nowadays are a little bit different because more people come into jiu-jitsu now having seen or experienced it on some level outside of participation. Maybe they see it in the UFC. Maybe their friend is a 3-stripe white belt and they're watching like a fight to win thing. And so they see things and they know what an armbar is. And so they're a little bit better equipped from day one, some of them, not all of them, than 20 years ago.
Do you think that them being more equipped is in some capacity a detriment to them? Meaning
Yeah.
that
Yeah. Yes.
we have all in recent years gotten the, well, I've done this, this, and this off YouTube, you
Right.
know? And
Yeah. My instructor used to tell us the internet is full of stuff. 50%
Mhm,
of it is great, 50% of it is shit. But
mhm.
until you are good enough to understand which is the 50% that's good and which is the 50% that's shit, just relax on what you're consuming.
That's good. That's great. That's great. So I keep these at about an hour. Do
Yeah.
you have anything that you would like to say that I didn't get to ask or touch on?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything. I think, yeah, no, I have nothing outside of that.
Good, good. I want to thank you for having this conversation with me. One, because I know it's not easy when a stranger reaches out and wants to talk to have a conversation. But two, just the same thing that I say to all of my guests in having this conversation with me. You're now a part of my martial arts journey, whether you like it or not. And I thank you for that as well.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool.
I want to thank everybody who watched or listened to this. And as always, guys, keep kicking.
Thank you.